About 30 years ago, a plan was drawn up to dual the A11 between the Five Ways roundabout and Thetford, and that included a bypass around the village of A11. And in those last 30 years there have been varying attempts to actually do something about this, and I'm afraid not much has been successful. Then about 8 years ago, the government looked very carefully at the roads building program in this country, and they concluded that this particular stretch of road was by far the most dangerous road in the east of England, and certainly one of the most dangerous in the whole country. And as the Member of Parliament, over the years, I've had journalists, local journalists, ringing me up to tell me about some terrible, terrible accident, some terrible, terrible carnage, which has destroyed the lives of many people. Dozens and dozens of people have died or been injured along this treacherous stretch of road. And so many times people have said, well, why is it so treacherous? And the reason is that basically you have a motorway standard road all the way from London up to the Five Ways roundabout, also effectively from the Midlands up to the Five Ways roundabout, and then suddenly you've got these 9 miles of single carriageway, and people are not used to driving along such a narrow road, coming from Norfolk or coming from the south, and of course accidents then happen. In the last few years it has been truly frustrating to move this process on. Meanwhile, the congestion has got worse and worse, particularly in the evenings during rush hour, and on Fridays it's absolutely impossible. The environmental degradation is obvious. And what is good about the prospect of dualling this road is that effectively there is a single land owner, that there are really quite minimal environmental considerations compared with many other roads projects, as there is a man-made forest through which this dual carriageway would run. Finally, exactly a week ago, the Transport Secretary, Jeff Hoon, agreed to fund the dualling of this road. And this was after a particularly strong campaign by Charles Clarke, the Labour Member of Parliament from Norfolk, and myself. 2 summers ago we hired somebody to write a report about the road, about transport expenditure in East Anglia, and we put forward what we thought was a very compelling case to spend the money on the criteria I've suggested, including of course safety, the environment, and the economy, which was being impacted by this particular road. And so a process began. A few months ago, Charles and I went to see Ruth Kelly, the then Transport Secretary, who seemed to be positive about trying to move this on. And finally we saw Jeff Hoon just less than a month ago, and he moved this on very rapidly indeed. It has been a source of the most huge frustration to me at all the delays, but finally all the local members of Parliament, the East of England Regional Assembly, the county councils, the district councils, the East of England Development Agency, all the interested parties came together to support this campaign. I am truly delighted that this is the case. Draft orders have now been published. There might be a public inquiry. There has been so much consultation in the last few years. I hope that won't be necessary. If it is unnecessary, then actual work could commence in the early part of 2010 rather than autumn, as has been suggested. Even the autumn date would be 18 months ahead of schedule, and by 2013 the actual work would be put into action, and of course after that the road would be built. It will be a huge boost to the economy of the region. So I can only just hope that no government decides to cut back on this. The money has been put aside and I've been given that assurance, but of course these things happen. But certainly for me personally, having fought this campaign for so many years and having been so deeply frustrated, I'm so delighted that this has now come about. On every possible criteria, this is a road, the dualling of which is now long, long overdue.